Welcome, speakers. Welcome, viewers. And it has been relatively little longer than what one plans when it is matter of bringing a very topical, very important subject to our viewers. Our viewers have become almost used to what quality discussion we bring. And from the perspective of learners and professionals, we eagerly await expert to come here on our security leadership discussion. In ICISSM, it has been our endeavor to bring really knowledgeable, recognized, well-established, reputed speakers, those who have been leading light in their related professional field. Today, I am very happy and pleased to bring to you a subject which is a hogging limelight. But many who are not really, baptized into cybersecurity, they have not attached much value to it. But those who are into the cybersecurity domain, they know what has happened, and it was a close call. So today I bring to you our expert speaker, Mr. Alok Vijayant. Alok ji, thank you very much for sparing your time and joining for the discussion. Today's discussion, I'm sure you would find close to your heart. And the subject which, Amitabh Bachchan in movie very famously said, I eat English, I drink English, and I speak English. You have been living the entire activities of cybersecurity. So I will make your introduction slowly, and to begin with, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, that you are presently founder of Ninja Bytes Private Limited, which is involved in fabrication of human use robots, artificial intelligence, and computer vision related abilities. Mr. Vijayant is also into development of blockchain based applications, software development, and application security and metaverse coding. He is founder of ICDPC 2022 GroundZero, Rebooted, a global brand of conference. He has also created a consortium of IT security professionals in India InfoSec Consortium, conceived National Security Database NSD, and INCR, Indian National Cyber Registry. I will bring in some more aspects of multifaceted personality of Mr. Alok Vijayant, but then bringing the subject into discussion. Microsoft related something has happened globally. It had ramification, but it was downplayed. I feel that it was downplayed because the kind of threats, kind of vulnerabilities it was likely to expose was very scary. Why it was downplayed and what exactly happened in Microsoft event, which has happened only very recently.
Okay, so good morning and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on such a glaring topic of cyber disasters. And one of the instances that we have seen very recently is Microsoft. You know, the outages because of Microsoft and the ramification it has got on the overall working of the globe. In fact, I would say the working of the globe is something very important to actually ponder upon. And you introduced me rightly, actually, because cybersecurity has been there with me right from the very beginning. In fact, I entered into this domain in year 1999 for the first time, when there was nothing known as cyber. It was all standalone applications and so on and so forth. But then I had a little, in fact, I saw the spark in this particular domain way back in 1999. And being a general management cadre officer, I chose to be in the tech field, though I have no formal qualification to be a technical expert on the subject. but then I'm a hands-on person, and that's the way how I came so far. I was lucky. God gave me an opportunity to actually be at the right place at the right time. Got an opportunity, got a lot of trainings from my parent organization, Reserve Bank of India, and that's the way where I am. The only advantage that I probably have in this particular field is that I am not educated. Educated in the sense that I have not learned things from books. So, my thought process can go everywhere. It can go into dimensions, and it can go beyond the educational knowledge that is imbibed in the books. Since I have not read books and learned these things, I have learned practically hands-on. So there could be some conceptual error also in my speech. But then, so far as the practicality is concerned, I think I'm okay, and I'm still learning. Every day I learn certain things, and uh, look at it in a very very different out of the box kind of an approach. So this Microsoft outage, in fact, there has been a lot of outages earlier also. It's not that it's the first time such kind of thing has happened, but yes, Microsoft, because of its penetration to a great level into every person's life, this becomes an important thing, to ponder upon. That when services like Microsoft go down, then what all can happen is something which we have just seen a couple of days back. And so one has to be aware about how to handle such kind of a thing. And you also need to read between the lines that why is it that Microsoft outages did not get so much of cover. There has been earlier instances also, like there was a breakdown in submarine cables that was also very underplayed. A couple of news agencies reported, but then it just went down the indexing page of the Google, or for that matter for any search engine. So the question is that why certain things, where bigger things get downplayed, and smaller things get noticed, and they are given too much of importance it is attached to them. So we will look at that entire thing, because looking from the statecraft point of view also is something very very important. And I will just present to you my couple of slides which I just made last night. So is that so can you see my this slide? Just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay. So the topic for today is cyber disasters. So I am Alok Vijayant. I've done my CH long back in 2001, postgraduate diploma in cybersecurity, management of business administration from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University, a certificate of proficiency and advanced diploma of proficiency in Mandarin language. So I have been a former director for looking after cyber operations for the Government of India for almost 16 years before I took an exit last year to form a new company known as CAIIB IT. Now, this I have highlighted very clearly. It's science, robotics, and IT. That's what I look at. Cybersecurity, all these science, robotics, and IT is going to encompass the entire gamut of cybersecurity in the future. So this is why how I named it as CAIIB IT Technologies. So So the question is that disasters, are they just disasters or accidents or statecrafts? Now there is a very thin line of definition. There is a thin line of demarcation between these three words that you see today. Disasters can happen anytime, but then they could be natural, they could be artificial, they could be anything for that matter. So disasters are going to be there, and it'll happen. But what if this disaster is just an accident because of some negligence? And what if it is done by some state with some malified intentions? So, in case the people who control the internet have got access to the entire gamut of internet framework, which includes the websites hosting, which includes the networks, which includes the submarine cable. So, whole lot of cyber infrastructure that initially they tried to name it as global commons. uh, they are even currently they are being controlled by the Western world, and they could be misused in the times of bigger cause. It may not be exposed in times of smaller cause, but it will be definitely exposed in times of a bigger cause or a bigger return for the countries who control them. So tomorrow, look at it, a hypothetical condition which I would just mention. Tomorrow, if uh, say US wants to actually disturb, not disturb, I would call it, disturb is the wrong word. It wants to make an effect or an influence in a different country of its concern. It has got very straightforward methods to use their homegrown industry. What I mean by homegrown industry is what is resident on their land, the company which is run by their people, the company which obeys the laws of their land, and are bound to provide information, bound to act in terms of their requirement. So they are, I call it, the homegrown, homebound, multinationals or the companies. So they can be actually influenced to carry out certain activities in the favor of states, and that is where the actual trouble lies. Because when you have a global internet which everyone is using, every country, whether it is a rogue country or whether it is a genuine running a genuine state, all of them are actually going to make use of this common, and that is the global common, the internet framework. And if you are going to use internet framework, and if you do not have a control over it, or one specific person has got a control over it, your dependence on that company or the person is very high. And then any kind of war gaming or warfare exercise, whether it is a form of hybrid warfare or anything, cannot be planned if you are dependent on one specific thread, and that thread is the internet. The communication backbone actually lays its great dependence on the internet framework today, even if it comes to say system of critical importance. Your laser guided systems today, they are all time dependent. The NTP or the NTP servers which are there, they maintain the time clock. Imagine the time clock going haywire at any point of time. The global time clock going haywire. Your entire guided missile systems or laser beaming systems, or whole lot of things are going to actually get affected by such kind of intervention, even if it is by disaster, accident, or even as a part of the statecraft. You imagine changing somebody your time, your global time, you know and you have planned something at a particular time, and that time actually elapses, it goes behind. So one will have to actually look at this entire thing as something which maybe need to be somehow controlled by many and not one. So that is what I mean by the thin line of demarcation. Now, whenever you have an event, typically we have a tendency to look at the event from the perspective of what has happened. What has happened. Like today, if anyone is talking about Microsoft outages, they are talking about what is it actually, and that is precisely everyone asks this question that okay, what is this Microsoft outage? Why this has happened? This kind of thing. But it is also equally important to look at the political, economic, and technological timeline of measurement. That's very important because what were the events that were taking place before this particular event when it comes to political, economic, and technological scenario surrounding that particular part or the subject. So all the prevailing conditions in the respective domains must be analyzed for the event before one classified it as a disaster, an accident, or a carefully crafted state act. We have a tendency to report an event. The event is carried by lot of pre-event. Hello. The event is it always has some pre-events or some situations that has led to this particular event, and that also needs to be analyzed. Now, looking at the timelines, in fact, yesterday I was just looking at that what is that which the leg that is missing in this particular timeline of Microsoft outage. I found that crowdsource, I looked at their investments. their share tradings, and so on and so forth. And I found in the last month itself, there has been an exchange of share trades between their directors and owners of CrowdStrike, to an extent of 7 to 8% of their shareholding has been either diluted or it has been liquidated. So one has to look at it. Okay, people from the economic background will actually understand that, though we say that insider trading is not supposed to be there, but then companies do get reflections of what is going to happen, and on the basis of that, they do profit from their share tradings. So if something has happened in, say, end of June, and offloading of shares have actually happened at that time, that means they were preempting an event that could have brought down the share value of CrowdStrike a little lower than what it was then, so that they can repurchase it back. So such kind of, I don't say that this, what I'm saying is absolutely right, but this also happens. So we will have to look at it from that key. Okay, how does somebody benefit economically by such kind of an event? And we will have to look at it. We will have to start attaching certain kinds of threats to those, or even weights to those, plausible events that may have happened. So even your economics, your tradings, your shares, all these are indicator of an event that is yet to happen. So second point is beyond your eyes. Asymmetry in the domain of IW must be carefully factored in, as what is visible to eyes is not necessarily the truth, or what you hear is not necessarily what you need or should hear. Now, what I mean by this is, this particular domain of cyber is absolutely asymmetric. That means a very small country can actually pose a great amount of risk to a very large side global power. And this is where this asymmetry is going to be absolutely a game changer when it comes to the hybridized warfare, where information technology plays a major role in setting up the stage or the theater. So past incidents also we have seen, there have been instances where such kind of things have not been, glamorized, or it has not got much of media attention. So past incidents, one of them, the incident which I could just take it out because I was in the mid of things when this was happening. Symantec compensates for bad software update. More than a month ago, so this was almost like June 2007. After Symantec knocked out 50,000, now the word, you see, the knocked out 50,000 Chinese PCs with a bad software update, the company is ready to offer compensation. But Chinese users eligible for the offer have to act fast. It's only good for a couple of weeks. Now, it's a very, very interesting piece of news. You see, when this particular operating system, Chinese beta version of operating system, XP beta version, Chinese language, OS was the one which was affected by this faulty semantic update, which quarantined 3 of the files which were supported to the user to log in onto the Windows system. So one login through the network, that file on quarantine. One login to the password, so password hashing, those files were corrupted, which were quarantined. And the third was logging from a boot disk, that was corrupted. So all the 3 methods of logging on to a particular computer was actually quarantined. So the user could just not log in with any of the methods that is available. Now, the interesting part is that almost it's what they write is 50,000, but it was almost 1 million computers had got infected at that time by this Symantec antivirus update. And interestingly, there were only 7,000 genuine licenses. So imagine if Symantec has to pay compensation for these users, how many compensation he would have paid? He would have paid only 7,000 compensation. But at the same time, they destroyed 1 million computers. So I'm not saying whether piracy is good or piracy is bad. What I'm trying to say is the dependence on a particular piece of software is something which is causing this glitch in your mind, that look, tomorrow if he turns hostile against me, he has all the methods to pull his strings and disturb my happiness in terms of my working. not an antivirus software to wrongly identify two system files in the simplified Chinese version of Windows XP as malware and quarantine them. That mistake with semantic blamed on an automated updates and so on. And exactly this time, Microsoft outages have also caused, they have given the explanation for this particular outage as an automated update. Now, the question comes, which will come into my subsequent slides, that is it a case of poor quality issues, or it is a deliberate push of certain mechanism to quarantine or reduce some kinds of systems from the internet scenario. We have seen the use of homegrown multinationals by the United States during Iraq war, where just before the war began, the satellites were positioned on top of Iraq. The communications from this satellite were started being intercepted, and the cables using their the network giant what is that, ATN AT&T AT&T, they disconnected the cables layout in Iraq, so that there is no other method of communication left from the land side or from the wire side. So it has to hop onto satellite, which they had kept it as a communication interception satellite. So this kind of a thing, when it comes to a full-blown war, all these homegrown multinationals are going to be used by the country which hosts them. So controls today. Who controls the information domain? There was a convention, there was a Geneva conference in 2021. It's United Nations Commission on Science and Technology for Development. It advocated for CIRP, that's a Committee on Internet-Related Policies. And what the country from the southern parts, the Global South representation, they actually pushed for creation of an independent committee which should comprise of nations, from the south even, and it was basically aimed at democratizing the internet and the critical resources currently controlled by the United States and big businesses and powerful nations. Now, this I just pulled off from internet yesterday, but sorry to say that I was not aware about this convention that had happened, because it did not get the media push that it deserved to get. We could not actually make such kind of, I would say, a powerful lobby that could actually push for such kind of a, CIRP kind of a committee. So they are, powerful businesses, houses. They are powerful nations, which definitely, do not want to hand over such a lethal platform to the rest of the world. They only want them to use this as a platform for all kinds of activities. So ICANN is the one. This is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Now today you have Govt.in. Okay, so many of the sites, many of our critical sites or critical services are running on Govt.in sites. Now, how dependent are we on Govt.in, this name itself? And what if somebody changes Govt.in name to a server in, say, Czechoslovakia? Who controls that ICANN? ICANN is controlled by Americans. Then comes the second very important part in the entire cyber infrastructure is DNS. This is known as domain name servers. Now, mother DNS is controlled by the United States and Western nations. Now, what does it mean? That, okay, I have this name, say my domain is hosted in alokvijayant.in, and I'm hosting it on a particular IP address because internet knows only IP addresses, not name. So ICANN allots me the name alokvijayant.in, and DNS tells me, okay, you are hosting it on this platform, so this will be the IP. So ICANN and DNS work together to ensure that the IP addresses can get converted into name and vice versa. So alokvijayant.in will get converted into a number, and that number will get converted into IP address, so that there is a communication. If any user across the globe wants to visit my site, He can actually type my name, alokvision.in, which is a domain name issued by ICANN, and his DNS would decide that which server this alokvision.in is resident on. So these two work together to actually route the entire traffic on the internet. Now this becomes a very, very important factor, because if these are the two organizations that are going to route the traffic, then they can also do a misrouting, or they can also do a temporarily reflection, deflection, direction, redirection, and so on. So then ICANN and DNS become one of the most important factors in the entire internet domain. Then comes very important is the search engine. Today, how many of us can actually survive without a search engine? Way back in 1999, we had almost 3 or 4 search engines. With some of the people who have entered into this domain recently, maybe 1.5 decades back, they won't even know those search engines ever existed. The search engines were Hasta La Vista, Netscape Navigator, and so on. So there were a whole lot of other search engines which are available. They all have vanished. None of them are actually surviving today. Today we only know Google as a search engine. Now search engines become very important from the factor that if I'm your search agent, then I will show you only what I want to show you. I will not show you what I don't want to show you. So then it again becomes a very, very controlled structure where search engines play a very important role. Now the question is, why no other country is doing it? Why no other country is actually getting onto this search engine kind of a business, or creating their own national wide DNS, which should be completely reflective, or it should take an update from the mother DNS only when it is required to take an update, not otherwise. We have not thought about it because these are investments which have to be made by the government. These are not profit motive related stuffs. One can look at it. The governments have to be coming forward to actually get such kind of things developed. It's not that the Indian government has not tried doing it. They have tried setting up mother DNS, but then only those propositions actually go through which have got some commercial value. If it does not drive commerce, those propositions actually die out. At one point of time, I remember in 2007, there was a group in Kerala which started writing its own operating system, and I can tell you, during service of my 16, 17 years with the government and 9 years with the Reserve Bank of India, I have heard many of the researchers dreaming to write the operating system, but just dreaming, not actually working towards it, because it does not give you that kind of a kick that it gives you by writing normal, ordinary civilian codes. So that's why nobody has attempted it. There are a couple of organizations like CDAC and others. They have written a couple of operating systems which is being used in by the defense forces. But then, uh, you know, operating system writing is one part of it, and enabling devices and providing updates is an equally important part of the entire game. Now, while CDAC has written the operating system for the defense forces, they have not been proper in updating it because we do not have permanence. The people who wrote this operating system, they left long back, and the new people who have come in, they don't want to read back the code and maintain it. So that's the typical dilemma. So maybe one day, government wakes up and says that, okay, I will set up something like Microsoft here, and we will keep funding them till the time they come out with an operating system. Imagine what kind of a revenue we are talking about. Look at it. If we are spending 7,000 rupees on a Microsoft operating system and another 5 to 7,000 rupees on Microsoft Office and so on, so you are basically spending 14,000 rupees, or okay, I'll reduce it a little. Let's make it 10,000 rupees. You are spending 10,000 rupees on Microsoft product per usage. Now we are billion population. You know what we are looking at? 7,000 billion, not 10,000 billion. Even if we go by a very, very stupid update of 7% or 10% people actually doing it, or actually buying and utilizing this, Microsoft operating system, still, we are not talking about a small amount. We are talking about $70 billion. So that's the cost which we are paying. So what stops us by not paying that amount? and creating our own setup where we create another Microsoft giant in India. But it's a utopian idea to go with. It's very difficult to actually perceive such kind of a thing at a global level. But of course, with the current government and the commitment they have towards cybersecurity and things, I'm sure someday they will be in a position to actually raise multinationals to a level where we can proudly say that we have Microsoft equivalent here in India. So the current issue was very simple. They made it look like a very simple kind of an issue where CrowdStrike, which was one of the vendors of Microsoft, who were responsible for monitoring computer traffic for threats and also updating with software updates through CrowdStrike. So what was happening is the Microsoft engaged the services of CrowdStrike that okay, Microsoft is not into the business of monitoring traffic, or maybe it would be a part of the entire game plan of the state too. That okay, I don't want to legally complicate issues of monitoring traffic, so let somebody else handle that part of it with a kind of a commitment to the back end that okay, you will not use it for this, and so basically transferring your liability to somebody else, a third party, so that Microsoft is not troubled with handling such kind of litigations and so on. So enterprise-wide computers, like large organizations, they opted for this kind of a service where the computer traffic that was coming onto the enterprise network was being monitored by CrowdStrike. Now, monitoring is a very touchy word coming from the intelligence framework. I know it for sure that monitor word itself is taken in a very negative connotation. So, CrowdStrike was given this responsibility to look at the traffic and also push out software upgrades. So today, if you look at it, Microsoft outage, Microsoft can safely throw away its liability to CrowdStrike and say that look, you did not check the updates, and that's why such global outages. So transferring your liability, this is one of the methods. I have seen it earlier too when it happened with Facebook, when we were getting a little cheesy about Facebook data as intelligence agencies. So they shifted their entire operations, global operations, to Ireland, where the rules are very different when it comes to providing information. So they went on to Ireland and started serving the data from Ireland servers. So bad updates from the CloudStrike, started rolling in, and the updates actually caused a lot of havoc. Havoc we have already seen, so we will not. I will not discuss on it that what are the havoc seen, because everyone has seen those queues in outside airport, banking system, and so on. Now, what are the actual issues? Where are the gaps in update policy? And this update policies gap, I find it everywhere in every organization, whether it is critical information infrastructure or whether it is a normal, ordinary individual using a machine. We normally update it, we put on automated update because we are very scared about security. Security has become like a nightmare for us, that okay, if we become insecure, something will happen. If we become, if my computer gets compromised, then this will happen, and if I don't update, my computer will get compromised, and so on. So this particular the security dilemma is something which has actually produced gaps in our update policies. How do we update it? We set it on automated updates, and updates, as and when it is released from the vendors, it automatically takes up the updates and installs it. You know, so the quality check process, the separation of development and production environment is something that we must adhere to this policy. While in RBI, I have learned this entire thing being in the system side of it. RBI never confused between the production and the development environment. After checking everything is okay in production environment, then only the software used to be rolled out in the development environment. In the government, I haven't seen such kind of a thing where, so production and development go hand in hand, and that is one of the reasons of outages that happen, because systems are implemented in a with a couple of tech bugs, and before removal. In fact, many of the IT systems which you see today, if you open the inspect panel on your browser, you will see a lot of console logs, which one actually uses it during time of development. So these console logs, or developer puts it in that to understand where how the process flow is taking place. And before deployment, in a hush hush for putting it in the production environment and inaugurating stuffs, we leave those console logs in that, and which throw out a lot of security bugs to the hacker, who now know exactly where to hit on and how to hit on. So that becomes a quality check process. Security system is kept too close to the system. Lack of middlewares. What I mean by this is that your production environment systems and the updates, they are very close to each other. That means the moment updates come in, it straight away starts entering into your the working systems or the production systems, which actually causes such kind of outages, because we have not tested it at all. So you must have a parallel system. If you are running in a critical condition, there should be parallel system where the update should be applied, or patches should be applied in the production system first, and only after it's stabilized should be put into the development environment, not before that. So such outages will not happen if you test it in the production environment before implementing into the development environment. We don't do any sandbox testing here. Now, we have organizations which are supposed to do these kind of testing of softwares. STQC under Ministry of Electronics and IT is supposed to do such kind of a sandbox testing, where any kind of update that is pushed should be first tested. But again, we have problems regarding the qualified manpower or equipped manpower working in the government environment, because one, IT environment is very high paying, so it becomes very difficult for retaining talents into such kind of governance mechanisms. We do not have parallel systems, of course. We don't have accountability is something which is lacking, because every time an event happens, it actually throws open opportunity for some to uh, raise more funds for setting up their labs and setting up their infrastructure and so on. It actually, sadly, but truly, it actually creates opportunities for pushing your old files forward, so that you can get your infrastructure on board. So many times the investment has taken place in the past, where when the events take place, after that there have been a lot of file works, and you know a lot of in fact, people have been able to push for more spending on IT infrastructure. Despite that, nobody checks back. When the second incident happens, nobody checks back. Okay, you set this up with such a cost during last events, now why such things? So there are ready-made answers for the IT people. They will straight away say that, okay, things have improved. There have been a lot of improvements. This system keeps changing every time, so we have to keep ourselves updated, and that's why we are in this state. But there is going to be some kind of an accountability. There has to be some kind of accountability. You say that if you have a Swachhata Kendra, or you have a botnet cleaning center, you should not land up in a situation where you have AIMS kind of a disaster happen. You know, you should be in a position to bring back this entire thing. If you can clean a botnet system, or if you can clean a malware, and if you claim to have cleaned the malware, then in that case, AIMS malware or ransomware should have been cleaned in the right from the first day itself. And that is where I bring in the question of accountability. We should definitely be there with the people who are putting up the system. It should not be a vendor-driven, software system that we put in, but it should be a need-based and the requirement and a futuristic need-based system, penetration into our at least the critical information infrastructure. That is what is my recommendation in this entire thing. Now, why India? Now, you see, India has become very important because India is on a global framework. It is a rising economy, and it's the third largest economy in the world, and that's why everyone is running at this. So, because of your global reach and because of your global reckoning, the Hawkeyes are going to be there on you. Your rising GDP is a concern for many. It's not that they are not bothered about your rising economy? Definitely, when your economy rises, somebody else actually takes the dip because of your rising economy. If you are gathering, if you are catching up the markets globally, somebody else is losing the market. So the India rising has got a flip side of it, is that uh, others who are not benefiting from your rising are the ones who are going to put a hawkeye on you, and that's why we have to be alert, because there is a policy that you grow with me, I will help you, but you grow stronger than me, then I will pull you down, and that's what we have to keep things in mind. So I have done with my presentation. In case there are any questions, I would be glad to answer that.
Thank you, Alok. It was a very deeply researched presentation you made, and the entire scenario you painted so well. And the last two slides were very important. Why it is prudent to be prepared, and what all are required to be done. But question would be that what has happened to Microsoft can happen also to Wipro, can also happen to any other software companies on whom we depend so much. Our PSUs, our multinational companies, they do use software and the support from our own thoroughbred Indian
Hmm.
companies. So has it not already happened in India? Something like Microsoft? Because I have
You
few input to doubt that India has not been always event free. Few events have already happened in India.
Yeah, so in fact, there are large organizations which have implemented such kind of a system, and they definitely got infected, and they got influenced by this particular outage. That's true. But then, what options do we have? We do not see. We do not. Couple of systems are actually there on open source based operating systems like UX system, Unix systems, or Linux systems, but then most of the systems, because writing, see, I told you that writing an operating system is one part of it. Enabling all the other devices to support on that particular operating system is yet another game. So tomorrow you have, say, like you have implemented on the airport, you have implemented your DG Yatra. Now DG Yatra has got couple of equipments that have been put there. Now those equipments, if they are not supported on Ubuntu platform or a Linux platform or Unix platform, then by force you will have to shift your systems toward Microsoft. Now Microsoft, why it has actually got the global acceptance, is because they are constantly researching companies. Every new device that actually pops into the structure or the working, they first write the device drivers code for them, so that it starts supporting that particular device. You buy a new device and Microsoft supports it, and that's why it has got so much of acceptance that yes, it is like this. If you come to the Chinese systems, now why they're a little different, and why they don't get infected by such kind of Microsoft outages? Because what they have done is they have broken open the code of Microsoft. I don't say that they have done it all from scratch. They have not done it from scratch. So they broke open the code of Microsoft. They put a lot of stress, lot of energy into breaking up this Microsoft code, break it into fragments, and only pick up those fragments which they thought it was necessary to be picked up for their operation. And then they have started working on attaching a parallel stack onto it, so that they can keep attaching their new devices which they do. You'll be surprised to know, I was working on some kind of a robotic structure, and there was a requirement of attaching almost more than 40 to 50 motors, and I couldn't find the servo motors I'm talking about. I couldn't find any particular device or a board which could support 40 motors at a time. in a robotics. Because if you look at humanoid has got more than 120, 30, servo motors and different motors of different kinds and different parts of the body. So if you are running it with the individual boards, then the requirement of the boards became very large. So we hunted for one board, which was, of course, a Chinese make. They had made it for themselves because uh, so and the codes for actually reading that entire thing was only available in Chinese language. So they have customized it to an extent where only Chinese will use it, nobody else will use it. That kind of a thing. So somehow we were able to do some kind of manipulation in that, and I'm now using that entire thing. But yet the board is still Chinese. The entire thing. While the code we have modified. So when you come about cybersecurity or anything of this sort, you must have multi levels of security, wherein the vendor should be different. It's like you have to make your chakravyuh in such a way that every ring is made by somebody else, so that nobody is aware about all the 7 rings. You know that kind of a structure one will have to think about when it comes to cybersecurity.
Right.
And
At this point, Alok, I want to make bit of introduction further to what was made about you in the beginning. And for viewers, let me share with them that Alok has served as Group Director and Chief Instructor of NTRO, Government of India, and he was responsible for generation of human capital to help the organization identify and prepare the right resource for succession planning in niche areas of operations. He ensured enhancement of training quality in technical areas of operations. And this is the kind of background which reflects when he made the presentation and an entire discussion. And rightly, as ex NTRO official, he has deflected my question that has such incident happened in India? Maybe I would, from my side, mention a few doubtful areas or doubtful incidents which has happened in past. In 2012, our viewers might recollect Western grade failure. Western grade failure was something which was talked about less in India, but overseas discussions took place, and there were indications that it might be handiwork of China. And through the SCADA vulnerabilities, again, there was Aryabhatta first launch, which was a very disastrous, and that was also considered to be a sabotage. But then again, these are the areas where intelligence agencies or CERT or NTRO or for that matter any self-respecting intelligence professional would not put any stake or make any claim. But then this gives another dimension of today's discussion: SCADA vulnerability. That time, we talked about Iran atomic power plant
Stuxnet.
sabotage through Stuxnet. Today, vulnerabilities have changed. Stuxnet were considered very, very lethal. Today, I know that there might be many variants or maybe new product available in grey market. What's your take on that?
Okay, so coming on to the SCADA kind of network. Now, this is very interesting. You raise this topic. Uh, The SCADA networks, yes, they are deployed in many of our critical information infrastructure, and they are required in such kind of an area where accessibility of individuals or humans is very difficult. Like fast rotating business, the systems like centrifuge, or even for that matter, I would say power grid systems where high tension electric wires are on way, and even in areas like X-ray radiations and so on. So these are the places where SCADA systems are basically used to control the devices remotely. So that's one part of it. So when it comes to SCADA, yes, they are vulnerable. They could be vulnerable, but looking back at the Stuxnet kind of thing, it was again, as I said, that disaster, accidents, or statecraft. So initially, it was proven to be a disaster. Later on, it was called as an accident, and much later, it was said that okay, it was a statecraft. So how I want to actually portray it is something very interesting. Uh, when SCADA came into picture, when Stuxnet was revealed, when it came out in open surface, there were a lot of American researchers, in fact, Western researchers, who came to India and started saying that, okay, your INSET 4B failed because of power, this, and all that kind of thing. And they actually went on hammering our heads. At that time I was in service, and I have heard almost 3 or 4 presentations from different Western researchers, uh, prominent researchers, who have come in and said that, okay, look, this structures had happened, and this has caused failure to your inset that satellite, because of the power module and whatever it is. Later on, it came to be known that, okay, it was against that Iranian nuclear plant to check at what level they have reached centrifuge. So while initially the deflection was on Chinese, the Chinese state people, that, okay, they have done it. But did this researcher not know exactly who has done it? They did know about it, and because all of them are those second ring journalists of the Pentagon, and they won't do any they won't do any seminar or presentation if it is not properly researched. So initially probably they were pushed to create this kind of a narrative, and later on they just dived, and the open media started picking up, okay, so this was a statecraft. So uh, so we have an agency known as National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center under NTRO, which is supposed to look after the national critical information infrastructure, which also includes SCADA controls and so on and so forth. Now, the problem in India is not in India, in fact, elsewhere, everywhere it is that we hardly understand the inner dynamics of the SCADA. So we can build in security around it. We have to depend upon the providers of this SCADA systems, that we are completely dependent on them to actually work on these kind of things. Uh, so we have to live by it, such kind of a thing. We have to just wait for a disaster to happen, and then we will probably make our systems a little more forthright, and then again wait for the next one, and again make out. So it's a cat and mouse game, and that will keep happening.
So at this point, uh, discussion was becoming very interesting, and there is a kind of facts and fictions, and these are the ingredients of fiction novels to be written, science fiction to be written. And I would suggest our viewers to go and see if they can in the cinema hall. Otherwise, just Netflix and any other OTT channel. A movie called Die Hard 4, and Die Hard 4 is purely focusing on what are the SCADA vulnerabilities, and how, if SCADA is compromised, how entire life of a society or even a country can be at stake. Thank you very much, Alok, Vijayant. You have been very
I just
informative.
want to add one more thing. In fact, you have mentioned Die Hard 4. I'm not very fond of reading books, but as a part of my one assignment with that is College of Air Warfare, Hyderabad, I had to read 2 books and mentor some students on those 2 books. So that was the first time I read books written by somebody else, which is not a textbook. So that book is known as Hacker and the State. Hacker and the State is a book, and The Dark Territory. These are 2 books which I was supposed to read and mentor the students. In fact, the gentlemen officers in corps, and I found it very interesting. In fact, when I started reading to it for analysis, I realized that I could relate it to the timeline, match it with US timeline and the Indian timeline, that what was happening there and what was the impact here in India, because I've been in that. So that's a very interesting piece that one must read. The viewers must read this book. It's by Fred Kaplan, and this Hacker and the State. I think it's a good read. I am glad that as a part of the assignment, I read this book. You know?
So I assure you that next time when we meet on the same platform, I will, after reading the book, make another discussion with you. And probably that discussion will be on SCADA vulnerabilities or what critical infrastructure depend on so far as acquisition and controlling data and assimilation, dissemination. Whole lot of things happen, and all these are on network, and how that network security and how the control, overriding control through software is done, and that would be from somewhere, I don't know which country of origin, but then how the inbuilt vulnerability would make the sovereignty of the country also at times at stake. So thank you very much, Alok, and you have
Thank
been very helpful and very thorough in discussion. You are subject expert, and that shows. So
thank
thank you very much. Remain in touch, and I would definitely request you for making another discussion on same platform. Viewers, thanks for joining. And as you have become used to it, you are accustomed to get the quality content, a high level discussion from the domain expert. We keep bringing such discussion which are helpful for you to upgrade and update your knowledge and skill. After all, our uh, motive and our motto is professionalizing the professionals. Security and safety professionals, they have to remain tuned into what is happening around them and always remain ahead of the curve. And I'm sure that you are happy and healthy, but then I wish for future health and happiness of yourself, your family, and your friend. Thank you very much for joining. Remain tuned in. Subscribe if you have not already subscribed, because you will then only get the advanced notification.